Hello, and I think everybody here know me already, but I'll do the introductions for people who may be watching it later on the YouTube. My name is Andriy Zhylenko. I'm CEO of PortaOne. I was CTO for 16 years and one of the original founders and programmers of PortaOne billing engine. And since the very beginning, our vision was to create a system which will allow our customers to do their own development around or inside of the system, thus creating something which makes sense for their local market, for their new projects, and they could do something which people haven't done before. And that is still the case. We still stick to our policy. We provide the source code, access to the database. However, things have changed. A lot of new opportunities appeared from a technology perspective. So we're going to talk about what is a way to make your PortaSwitch better, make your business better in 2024. Right now, we all heard probably too much about AI tools and all the possibilities it opens. We heard a lot, and you probably, if you're subscribed to our newsletter, and you should be subscribed to our newsletter, you receive updates about our low-code tools called Workflows and all those things. So I'll do a brief summary and best practice recommendations about what I think is the best approach and the most efficient, and what we should be mindful. Because sometimes we see that with every new tool, people sometimes are enthusiastic. And they feel, wow, now with this tool, they don't need any developers, they don't need anything. I'll be just sitting there and telling GPTs to do all the work, and I'll come to collect my money. It doesn't quite work that way, unfortunately, and at least now. And I'll talk about some of the success cases I know, and of course, I always welcome our customers. So, by the way, if some of you haven't registered to be a speaker yet, but after listening to the presentations, you just feel ready to say just a few words about what do you do and some projects you did, and maybe say thanks to specific members of the team, or say about something which impressed you in the system, in the industry, in the project you developed, you're welcome. Because this is for me, and also for everybody else here, and for people who will be watching us at PortaOne office, that's probably the most interesting, most precious information. It's something they cannot get from anywhere else. So it's right now, the expectations are, okay, they're just going to do all the work for me. And I, of course, played with Copilot, with ChatGPT. I'm using them. And I can say that by now, the ChatGPT, it mastered writing code on the level of average developer, and it definitely surpassed the average developer in the ability of avoiding the work. Saying, well, here is an example you can figure out yourself. Here's I'm not sure. Here's but you can do it later on. So it's not going to happen that anytime sooner we can just fire all the engineers and it will be done. What will be important and what's crucial is people who understand what is actually required. So it's extracting from the humans, passing it, processing it internally, and then working with the tools. So it's very unlikely that today, or probably let's say in the next 5 years, somebody can go and say, just write me PortaSwitch, write me a new accounting system, and all those things. I'm sure people will try. And when we just started with VoIP, it was very common for every telco operator, big or small, maybe even for small, it was very popular. Let's write our own BSS. Let's write our own billing system. Let's write this and let's write that. And it kind of works initially because you get something very basic working, and then you're happy, and then you realize you have to add, keep adding resources, and it just doesn't scale. And with ChatGPT, it's not going to scale either, because you still need to understand what needs to be done, and you need to do all of these controls. but it doesn't say that all these tools, they're useless. It's just the question of how do we apply them and to what we are going to apply. Because for right now, we need this GPT drivers, somebody who actually knows what the business needs and somebody who can control all those AI tools. And these engineering resources, they are still limited, maybe even more limited than we used to, because the world is becoming so global. Right now, our developers sitting here in Spain or sitting around Philippines potentially can find a job at American companies. So you're now competing with different projects. And if you have some precious resource of good software developers at your location, the question is how to use it for the maximum benefit. And then, of course, one obvious thing to avoid the situation when they're doing something suboptimal is to, I would say, talk to us. Because if it's something related to our system, or maybe even like not directly related, but in that area, you can have a conversation with somebody like your customer success manager, or if you are at a trade show with your account managers, and we are happy to provide some information. Right here at the show 3 days ago, we had our customer who came and he was talking about how 2 months ago they hired a team to develop a self-care mobile app for their mobile subscribers. And I was saying, well, it's a very bold move. Have you heard that PortaOne for about a year? We now have this like prototyping kit for mobile self-care, which basically just needs your brand and logo and it's ready to launch. The guy says, no, I wasn't aware. So it looks like they already paid money to do something, which they could have gotten the next week, and then only spend time with engineers to do these customizations, which were really required because maybe there was an integration, maybe it was something else was needed. So talk to us before you implement things, and then we can suggest, because maybe there is a project in PortaOne already underway, maybe it was something recently released, or maybe we just know because there was another customer doing something similar, we can just share their best practices. Will help to avoid a lot of these painful decisions when you know you already invested 6 months of development, and now it seems to be it could have been done in 2, and now what do you do? And naturally, these developers you have, the engineers you have, they should be focusing on where it's the maximum value. The maximum value would be something which is connected to your customer, something which addresses the needs of the customer, something which generates value to the customer. And we are okay of taking like the boring stuff which is on the back end, so you don't have to. And the things which are customer facing, I'm actually encouraging everybody to do this and do it directly with the teams which are under direct control or working closely. And as always, for doing this own development, it's a question of like total cost of ownership. Because I'm a programmer, I know it myself, like programmers usually, they are very optimistic. Like how long would it take for you to do this? 1 week. 3 weeks later, it's almost done. Like 2 months later, it's kind of ready for testing. We know that. But even if we just get really lucky and the initial development of something was supposed to take 2 weeks, took 4 weeks in reality, fine. But the life doesn't stop there. Somebody will have to support it. And it is the same like precious engineering resource next month when we are trying to develop a new portal, a new product, something. So that guy or gal, instead of developing that new product, they will be checking and like fixing these things and it's also going to have cost. And so people, they don't usually they look at this first number and it seems to be great, but at the long run, it's probably not beneficial. Again, at the MWC, we met a company from Netherlands. They claim they wrote their own soft switch cloud PBX system. It took them, they've been doing it for the last 2 years and they had 2 to 3 developers working on it. So if now multiply the salaries of those developers in Netherlands by the number of years, everything, and they can count the total cost of ownership. it's probably going to be like 2-3 times more than the total cost of ownership they would have with PortaSwitch. And these guys, they could have just added the things which we need specifically. So the fact that you can potentially now write programs faster doesn't mean you have to start writing programs like rate the deck upload or CDR reconciliation. And once again, I will reconfirm, we're not taking away the source code. We're still giving access to the databases. But 99% of the things which can be done, they should be done in a more streamlined manner. And that, of course, includes APIs and webhooks when something changes in the system. And we've been for the last year and a half, at least, maybe almost 2 years, we've been working with design of API version 2. And the idea was to change it and to make it intuitive for developers who don't have direct access or knowledge of internal PortaSwitch concepts. So it's just a general front-end developer whom you hire to create some beautiful portal. And they need to know just basic things. They need to know, okay, if he is a customer has some attributes such as address. So the least amount of confusion with technical terms and things related to voice over IP. And it's classical REST. It will simplify things, and Mike will talk more about what it means. And then, of course, workflows. And I see that workflow, it is a tool which will really allow operators to take control and execute this data synchronization efficiently. Because it was popular that you come to an office of CTO or some technical executive of a telecom, and they would have this big A1 sized paper with all these like blocks of 4G architecture. You need to have this, that, all these acronyms that probably nobody can like, name and their meanings correctly. But the idea was there was a guy sitting in telecom standards that they said, okay, you need to build a network like this. They have his blueprint and they're trying to apply it to your business, and it doesn't always work because you may not always need it. Now, with the ability to do this synchronization, we can really construct, design our telecom operation as a set of data flows from sign up, from provisioning to the network, from doing some other things. And most of these data sync flows, they are easily done with low-code, no-code tools. We offer PortaOne Workflows, which is based on Boomi. We have people who are experts and they can teach and they can train. There are other low-code tools. We're not forcing you to use that one. Boomi is nice, and the added advantage of using Boomi is that we will share the libraries of templates of other integrations we already developed. So maybe if you need to do integration with Pipedrive CRM, we don't have it yet. There is going to be default connectors for Pipedrive, which knows their API, but it doesn't know the exact data structure. But you can reuse probably the one which we need for HubSpot or for something similar. There's a lot of examples which speed things up. But if you will say we want to use Trade.io, that's totally okay. And that only then when you see this flows, okay, you need something in the middle, like an OCS component or something, then you can decide what it is. And it also opens possibility to not be locked to one vendor who provides too many things and you lose control. Then you can really, since you are controlling the data flows, then you can pick, okay, here we're going to use this, here we're going to use some other solution. And for enhancing PortaSwitch, Add-on Mart is there. It's getting more popular with additional modules added. And the Add-on Mart, the main idea is that probably everyone in this room, they have developed something cool for their operations. And they invested time. Now they're benefiting from selling it to their customers. Okay. Let's say they have 10,000 customers. And it will take them maybe a few years to fully pay back on the investment of resources they did. What about if they can deploy now with code which we already developed, deployed for 100,000 or 1 million customers, of another CSPs in different countries. So the monetization is going to be way, way faster, and potentially in very soon it's going to be your profit source comparable to the profits from your original customer base from which you develop. So we're promoting this idea. If you develop something nice, wrap it into containers. We have some guidelines published in the Add-on Mart. Then other customers can benefit from it. And that community is growing. Also from our side, we're trying to make this process as streamlined as possible. So the developers who are doing this, we can do it as quickly as possible. Which things I see are the most beneficial for customer to take on some development? Of course, that's something which faces the customer. So self-care portals, sign-up portals. We have some existing ones. And we're happy to work with you so you can actually build on top of it. We can we'll work together. Or it could be that for particular customer segment, they need something very different so you can start from scratch or use some existing applications. That's a natural choice, and because you will know your customer, you can do proper UX, and the current tools, whether you're using low-code application like Bubble or you're using GPT to quickly create applications, that's going to be quite powerful. The next one is going to be embedded or programmable voice. And just also in the last week, I received multiple inquiries from our customers trying to do things when they need to really get inside of a voice call and introduce some kind of programmatic, ideally even like AI-based conversations. So now instead of calling to IVR and having to dial 1, 2, 3, they just want to say, well, I call to PortaOne, I want to buy solutions for MVNO, and then ideally should understand and ask a few follow-up questions and then forward it to the right person. Because right now we have our call center ladies and they answer those questions and they send us follow-ups, and half of them are looking, okay, like these guys, they're calling, they want SIP trunk. They're asking for SIP trunk, and our ladies in call center, we don't want to tell them directly to go away, so they're very polite. They're trying gather all of the information, say, okay, we'll analyze. It's not exactly what we seem to be doing, but perhaps we can help. Well, AI maybe can do it better, so they don't have to waste time on that. And perhaps also, if we instruct it properly, can actually educate them also on some additional content and ideas. And doing connectivity and doing like bundling communications with other applications, it's a big thing. You want to sell whether it's CRM calling, CRM widgets, or some other types of when the customer doesn't buy like communications, it's buying 10 gigs of data or buying 1,000 minutes per month. It is a commodity. So you will be selling it at 10 euros, your competitors start selling it at 8 euros. Minutes are roughly the same, and you are going to those price wars. And if you sell to business owner as a tool to increase productivity of your sales team by 25%, so they will be making 25% more call, or they will be having 50% less more like disputes, whether a customer says you promised something, no, we did not, because there's call recording with analytics, and they can easily find what was there. That seems to be a natural choice. Or it could be, for instance, going, instead of trying to fight the big guys like Microsoft, going through Microsoft Teams applications, going for some integrations. So putting it inside of some application users already have or they want. And then, of course, analytics. And based on the data of portability, you can run some basic reports. But in order to have more insightful or actionable figures, this data, it needs to be processed, and also it needs to be enriched. We did our attempt some time ago with PortaBI. It failed because of the flexibility of our data model. We found out the customers, they have so many creative ways of structuring the data and using the data in portability, but we were not able to come up with one data model fits all. But you still can. And also with the tools available now, it becomes easier and easier to organize the data export from portability and then maybe add their data from your sign-up portal. So we know when customer, when they sign up, when they started to make their first call, what was going on, maybe tied to some additional data, so you will know what is happening, and then you can analyze better who are your best customers and focus on them, and also potentially prevent churn, because if you see it as a pattern, which is happening there. I was walking at the show, and every second, maybe every third booth, they have AI there, and I'm pretty sure half of them, the AI was just like put at the last moment, just people need it. So let's put AI somewhere so they will notice. There's a lot of hype. There are some real things which can be done. The low-hanging fruit, which I think we all see, it's the customer support and customer onboarding. So instead of calling to your help desk and trying to figure out what's going on, it can and should be done through AI chatbots, because then they can analyze all of the available information. And that's, I think, everybody is doing it, is trying to do it sometime. This is what we're doing in PortaOne. We use AI tools extensively to construct our own back office. So it's not, the customer may not exactly see it, but it will result in quicker developed integrations and less mistake and ability to create some new connections on the backside, which will translate into better customer experience. And now in order to activate the service, they just have one button. They don't have to do it with several separate things. So although not customer facing, but still is going to be very beneficial. And analytics, as that it's important thing. I put there some footnote, because also that's probably the area where there's a lot of hype, maybe too much hype. Because in order to get this AI model, which will produce you with magical results, I know that customer is going to quit next month, so you better like send him special offer or do something, or this is going to happen. You have to train the model. And in order to train the model, it needs a lot of data, and it needs some people feeding the data properly. From what I see right now, from our typical customer, the amount of data they have, it's not quite sufficient to build the proper model, because you need to process huge amounts of data to make it reliable. It doesn't mean that you should not try, but you should be kind of mindful, because the hope is, okay, we grab everything we have in portability, we like feed it into AI model, and then we come and start asking questions. Probably no, it's not going to work, because you need to have a feedback. You need to say, well, these are the customers who quit. These are the customers who actually increase their spending. We need to feed enough examples for each of these categories. We need to fine-tune the model, because when it starts making wrong predictions, we have to still know about this is then not going to work. And again, it's possible in some cases, a lot of work for data engineers, and for some customers, just maybe not enough input data. And that's an idea to discuss, because so far, the idea was that maybe if we could feed and anonymize data from various PortaOne customers, we're going to have a larger data set, and then potentially it could help, but we also will need to figure out the fundamental differences in different services and the different regions, and how does it affect. But that's one of the things where we can potentially combine the efforts. From our side, and what we're doing specifically to help you with the development of your enhancements around PortaSwitch. API v2. That it's a big thing because it will really reduce the friction when a new developer comes and starts to do something. And I've observed it myself. I've supervised a few projects where just general developers, they would come to start to work with our API, and because they were not aware of half of the terminology there, they were getting confused, making errors. So this one is streamlined to allow a general good front-end developer to start being productive as soon as possible. PortaPhone, in a sense, it's not just a mobile app. Mobile app is just the first phase. What we really want people to do, we want to try to take the APIs and this web is a widget and embed it into these other applications that customers are using. We have a customer, they signed up about a year ago for SaaS subscription, a minimum tier of 1 million CDRs per month. And what they did, they took a few of these CRMs or systems for call center agents. What they did, they added the calling widget right in there, because before it was, we have a system which has to control the phone, so we need to do synchronization. It was complex. They put it right there. They made some other tweaks which allows operator and supervisor to easily communicate and get on the call. And in less than a year, they grew, and now they are at 15 million CDRs tier. So they grew 1,500% during 1 year. Because of its integration, because of that philosophy, we're not selling you the connectivity, we're selling you better productivity at your desk. And that's something which is very easy to sell to the business owner, because they can clearly see this or hear that catching sound of the cash register. Next month, they're going to have more money. And for Add-on Mart, what we're doing, we are improving the infrastructure and we are improving the tools, which will be used by the developer. So they can test application locally. They can do the publishing into Add-on Mart with a few clicks. So that process should be as easy as possible, because we want all these cool things you are doing already locally. You can do this and you can do it for yourself, and then you can benefit from hundreds of other CSPs using it. I was just communicating with a company. They want to do HubSpot calling widget using PortaPhone technology, and they'll be asking me, okay, what's the total addressable market? I said, well, it's about 200 PortaOne customers who own licenses directly, plus on each system, they have virtual operators, resellers. So we're talking about probably 1,000 potential installations. And it's a big market for some application, which you already developed. But that's the beauty. So your additional costs would be just the minor things about wrapping it up into our provisioning tools to launch it on Kubernetes. And that's about it. We do hope that there's going to be more people coming to Add-on Mart and creating some things which can be used. So how would we go about creating a better service provider in this year or next year? You're still encouraged to do your in-house development. These people, especially, they're already trained. If they know your business, if they know the technology, they're very valuable. The question is how to use them the most efficiently. Right? I can probably paint some walls in my house, but it will take me quite a long time, and probably the result will not be as good as just hiring a professional contractor who can do it in 1 day. Right? So if I can do something, doesn't mean I should do something. I would rather focus on preparing project plans, reviewing some new design for new features and portability and things like that. So the same thing with your engineering team. Where is the place, the area where they can be applied for maximum performance? At Add-on Mart, it I hope it's going to be two-way street. So you gain access to all this cool functionality developed by others, and something which you do will go there. Just a side note, unfortunately, development which is done the old style, but modifying PortaSwitch code is not really eligible for Add-on Mart, because the whole idea of Add-on Mart is it's something which runs in the cloud, it's totally isolated. So for CSP to develop an Add-on Mart module, it has no impact on their current operations. Like if we tell them, well, there's a code which is developed by a very nice guy, he's also a PortaOne customer, we know him for years, and now we're going to put that code on your system, most of them would react very negatively. So, and this is another reason to kind of stop doing the direct source code hacks and consider going through APIs, going through webhooks, and already planning your module to function in the container separately, so it can be launched in Add-on Mart. And one thing which I did a few presentations already. I'll have a few brochures later on if it's new to you. I'm happy to talk. That's our product called IoT Mill, and this is a rapid deployment kit for new IoT services. It's like Raspberry Pi, which hardware box, which is already assembled, tested, it works. It was optimized for IoT deployment to live on a single battery charge for about 10 years. It can collect the data from local sensors, where it's temperature, humidity, or acceleration, whatever, and send it to the cloud where the real value will happen. Well, you will analyze the data and produce something. And that's a way to switch the approach to IoT companies, IoT enterprises, instead of just trying to sell them connectivity, which is a commodity. And they buy it from you at €1 per month, but tomorrow somebody offers them at 90 cents, and then most likely will switch. But instead, you are making them part of your technology ecosystem. You have an opportunity to sell them additional services, and then their success becomes your success. If there was some agriculture startup, and this year is going to be probably another problem with drought here in Spain, so the water consumption is going to be problematic. So if they manage to sell 100,000 of these sensors and boxes for each farm to measure where they really need to put water, it means this all 100,000 SIM cards are going to be on your network. So, it supports NB-IoT, it supports the general GSM protocols. I will have to check about the LoRa.
That's true.
It has Bluetooth gateway, so potentially you can extract sensor data from any Bluetooth capable sensor. So it's quite easy, and has built-in sensor that has GPS and accelerometer and a few other things. And that concludes. Please find me if you have questions about IoT Mill, about Add-on Mart, about anything else. And once again, I hope to hear from you, and even those who didn't have time to prepare a full-scale presentation. If you can just come and just like tell us very briefly about what the company does, about the projects you do, that also would be great, because I like to share these things back to the support team, because again, our support team, they are amazing engineers, but the problem is they usually work with our customers like on trouble tickets. So they can only see our customers when something bad happens. It's almost like a dentist. He may be a great guy, but you only see him when you're like in pain and like something not very pleasant that's happening. So I want to show them that there are times when you, our customers, and I, it's most of the time when you are happy, when you're proud of your accomplishments. Thank you.